Enslaved, Planned, Acted. This is part one of the story of Robert Smalls. Robert Smalls was born enslaved in 1839 in Beaufort, South Carolina. As a boy, he was sent to Charleston to work. Charleston Harbor was busy but tightly controlled. Smalls worked on the docks and eventually at sea. He was not formally educated and could not read or write, but he paid attention. He learned the harbor's geography, its narrow channels and shifting sandbars, and he studied the tides and the currents. When the war began, each fort relied on recognition systems, coded whistle signals and flags exchanged between ships and sentries. The wrong signals didn't bring questions, they brought cannon fire, but Smalls learned them all. By his early 20s, he was hired out as a deckhand and pilot aboard the Confederate steamer CSS Planter. Prior to the war, the Planter was used to transport cotton. But once the war began, it was armed with cannons and ammunition to transport supplies between Confederate ports. Smalls was enslaved and forced to help operate a vessel, fighting to keep him enslaved. He was 22 years old, married, and a father. His marriage was not legally recognized. Once he had tried to purchase his wife's freedom, but the price was set at $800. Far beyond what he could earn, while only being allowed to keep $1 a week from his wages. If they remained, his family could be separated and sold at any time. He began to plan. On May 12, 1862, the white officers left the Planter to spend the evening in Charleston, as they often did. Smalls and the crew remained behind. Before dawn on May 13th, Smalls put on the captain's hat and uniform coat. In low light from a distance, he resembled the ship's commander. As the Planter approached each Confederate checkpoint, Smalls gave the correct signals. Fort Johnson and Fort Sumter, where the Civil War had begun just 1 year earlier, stood heavily guarded. The sentries got his signal and responded. The ship was allowed to pass. Then they headed to a prearranged rendezvous point. Smalls and the crew quickly and quietly picked up their families, women and children waiting in the darkness. The Planter moved steadily towards open water, heavily armed and carrying Confederate ammunition. If they were discovered, they would be executed. As the ship cleared the final guns of Charleston Harbor, Smalls raised a white bedsheet brought by his wife as a signal of surrender to the Union blockade. Then Smalls delivered the CSS Planter, cannons, ammunition, and his intelligence to the United States Navy. The Planter and the Small family no longer belonged to the Confederacy.